On this episode, Coach Mike Deegan runs the show.
Playing point today. Playing point, asking the questions, dishing it off, and dishing it off to some wrestlers and some soccer guys and weightlifters. But, yeah, good show.
It was good. Treadway?
Yeah, I think you're going to learn a lot about vision and how to take your life from 0 to 1, because that's my new favorite thing.
D?
I feel amped up after this conversation. So anyone that listens, you're going to leave here motivated. You might call in like, all right, we're doing an extra practice tonight.
Yeah.
Call the team in right now. We're doing 2-a-days. You're going to be fired up for sure.
There's a lot of great info on this podcast. I don't want to talk anymore. Let's just roll to the show. Peace. All right, welcome to another episode of the Coach's Clinic. I'm your boy, Corey G. That's at Coach Mike Deegan. That is, well, he's not at Coach Mike Deegan. He's Mike Deegan. Yes, it's Coach Tyler Treadway. It's Coach Dustin Myers. Corey G. Look, brought to you by MaxEverMuscle.com. And today's episode, Coach is running. Coach Mike Deegan is running the episode. I'm giving him the microphone. He's taking the number one spot. He's going to throw out the topics. We're going to rock and roll. Coach, are you nervous?
I am. As we've been sitting here, I've been getting anxiety. It's a little bit more quiet today, right?
Hey, but the feedback so far has been great. I want to shout out to everybody sharing it with their friends. And, we are really enjoying recording, talking about these topics. I mean, I've been looking forward to it.
No doubt. No doubt. And today, where I thought we would go, I think when you think about leadership, one of the first things that I go in this process is thinking about vision and having a vision. So this could be a couple different ways. So what I'm interested to hear from you guys today, one is your personal vision, where you see yourself and kind of how you guys have built this gym into a monster. Tread, maybe where you want to go. And then also from a coaching standpoint, when you have an athlete, when they come in, sometimes our jobs as coaches, right, is to see things that they can't quite see yet. Mm-hmm. So it's, you have an athlete coming in, you're going to try to mold and shape them into something as well. So vision is kind of what I want to get into today. So True. As I say that, Coach D, anything that jumps off to you?
Well, first off, I mean, I've always wanted to be coached by a legend, so I feel like I'm being coached by the legendary Mike Deegan.
Yeah.
I had a vision of this very long time ago when you first walked into the gym.
Love
it. So I think, when it comes to having a vision for yourself, whether it's for your career, whether it's for your family, whether it's, in the athletic world, whatever it is, I think the problem that most people encounter is that they have this goal for themselves or they have this vision, but they look at it through the lens of, I hope someday I can be a state champion. I hope someday I can be, play on make the roster at a college, baseball team. I hope someday I can be a business owner. And when you hope, it's a wish. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think, one of the things I've really learned from talking to G over the years and, his influence on me is that when you look at these things and when you visualize them, you have to look at it as if it's already there. It's a fact. You're just moving towards it. Right. As opposed to, maybe I can get there. No, I'm going to get there. And here's what I have to do to get there, consistently.
It's going to be awesome when we're there.
It's going to be awesome when we're there. That's how you have to think about it. That's really true visualization. Mm-hmm. Anything else really is just wishful thinking.
So when I think about that, I think on those same lines and then also put myself in that spot, actually, right? What's it feel like? What's it look like? What is the other people around me? What is the level of competition that I want to breed in the atmosphere? How do I want to be perceived as a coach, which is the way we talked about it before. I think about what I want our crew to do and how I want it to be perceived. And I want motherfuckers to be scared to walk in here, straight up. I want them to know that they got to bring their best foot forward, because then I'm going to get the best out of them that day. I want it to be as serious as they're going to a powerlifting meet. So when I think about the visualization of what I want for it, I could already see it. I felt it before when I went to Westside, right? But I wanted it my own way, in our way at Old School. I wanted it to breed something when they walk in the door that they know it's special, that the expectation is next level, that they're gonna pull through that rep, and that was the standard. And so when we were able to close it down to the public and create the environment next level, I've seen this in my head for this whole time. It just hadn't happened yet. And so the first day when I walked in, and I knew I could feel that the expectation was different. And so to me, it's when I'm visualizing stuff, I already know what these things are going to do. It's just a matter, are we willing to do this podcast long enough to see it come true?
No,
And so I've always felt like that when I've operated around stuff. Good.
Yeah, vision's interesting because I think everyone has a vision no matter what your level is. And, you know, if it's me in soccer, at the high school level, if it's Corey with his powerlifting, Coach Dustin with his wrestling, or Coach Tegan in baseball, we're all at different levels, but we all have different visions. But I think all those visions contain some level of success, right? Nobody envisions himself losing or anything like that. But the most important thing is, and Corey's been on me because this is my new favorite saying, but Coach Deegan said go from 0 to 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you go from 0 to 1? And that's the first step in achieving success and achieving your vision is the ability to go from 0 to 1. And so that's what I'm excited to learn from you today is how you act on that and go from nothing to something.
Yeah, so, you know, as I'm listening, so I think a couple things that just came out to me there was that things happen twice. First, it happens up here in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Would you guys agree with that? It happens up here first. You can see it, you can feel it, you can touch it, and then it actually comes to fruition. So, I mean, I'm just curious, though. So, you know, when you guys are making $25 or $30 an hour, did you ever see this happening? Like this gym, this place, this environment you've created. Did this already occur in your mind, or has this kind of been something that's been happening little by little? So, you know, back in the day, you're grinding away, $25, $30 an hour, just taking clients in. And now you have a private gym, a studio, supplements. Yeah, just fill me in.
I think once we got the first I was going to tell you, bring that mic up just a little bit, Coach. Yeah, there you go. I think when we had the first old school, we started to realize that it could be
bigger.
It could be
and
big,
special.
and it could be special. So I think once we got out of the personal training gym, because that really wasn't like the vision, that was just like the entry point. Once Dustin and I bought the original old school, and it was like by railroad tracks. There was like 3 members at it, but it was grimy and raw. We were like, okay, this might be the first, like we started to believe like this could be like destination or famous. I used to be saying all kinds of wild shit, right? D, like it's going to be the most famous gym. Like,
Well, I'm going to say, like, in all honesty, when we moved on to the second old school gym, which is the one that most people are familiar with, the one in the old Kwanzaa hut, and we were there for, I mean, how long were we there? 13 years or something.
Yeah.
I kind of thought that was it. That was going to be like, that was the pinnacle of it. This guy, though, he always had, I would say, a much bigger vision, like where he could see, like, people are going to come from all over the world. And I would hear him say this stuff, and I would be like, yeah, that'll be cool, but I just don't really understand how that's going to happen.
Like, gee, motherfuckers all over, they're going to be coming to see us.
It's almost like he predicted the internet before the internet. Everything, you know? So I think he understood what I learned to do is after a while just kind of trust his vision, you know. And when I would hear him say these things, at first they sounded kind of outlandish, but then after a while, so many of them happened. It's just like, oh, all right, let's roll with it. You know? So that's kind of influenced my way of thinking in a way of like, you know, there really is no limit to what can happen or what you're going to do if you put forth the effort and kind of create this thing that people want to be a part of, you know. So, but yeah, I would say even from like the early days, even when I couldn't see it, you know, G definitely had a vision of like that this was going to be much bigger than what we had just locally.
Yeah, you start trying to speak it into existence a little bit, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of it. Like, you know, when we took over the Denison program, so I think they had won maybe 12 or 13 games the year prior to our arrival. And in the recruiting process, we started talking about, hey, we're going to try to compete on a national level at a really good academic school. And at the time, people were kind of rolling their eyes going, like, that's just not going to happen, right? But I think, but when I'm hearing you guys say, and I think I can relate to this as well, I did have a level of success, and I had seen some things, you know, when I was at Marietta as an assistant. So I had seen what it can look like already in my mind. And now I had to communicate it and sing it into existence, keep talking about it, keep talking about it, keep talking about it. And then I think the other layer to this is when you do that, you start probably attracting the right people into your life, right? For me, it's assistant coaches, players, etc. And then you can start building on things a little bit. But
people want to be a part of it.
That's right.
When the leader is showing like a clear vision of like success, like how could they not want to be? Because they're like, well, this dude believes it. Fuck, I need to start believing it,
right.
you know? And I think like when you can lead that way and then with true belief, like I actually believe, I've seen some of the wildest shit in my dreams come true. Why the hell wouldn't I believe that?
Right.
You know, but a couple of them had to come true first. So like when I tell the guys here, like, I'm not trying to be like good local. I'm not trying to be good regional. I'm trying to run shit. We're trying to be the best. So when you want to be the best, then there is a lot of hard conversations. There is expectations that change. But like to visualize to be the best at what you do, like I want to be able to say we got the strongest drug-free crew out. Plain and simple. You
Big
want to
statement.
learn how to be strong? You come here. And like to really like, put your flag down like that, you got to be about it. And so like you can't be kind of about it.
Right.
You have to be actually about it. And I think when guys think, well, this is going to be a national level program, that's what we're signing up for. Okay. How are you going to show us that now?
That's right. Now, do you ever get worried about sounding outlandish? Like, D said, hey, does that ever?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think it gets people chirping sometimes, but as long as you're backing it up. So if you're backing it up with the wins, you're backing it up with the talent, we're backing it up with the numbers and the look.
Right.
So I always go like this, like one guy's a fluke, but is 7
Yeah.
that are also got abs and jacked? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's cool to go one stud athlete because everybody can have one freak show. But when you got dudes in their 50s doing crazy stuff, you got dudes in high school doing crazy stuff. You got like it's like a system, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you can replicate it with anyone that walks
Yes.
in the door, that's the difference.
Yeah, and something that I got from Louis Simmons, he talked about the Russian protocols, which is a lot of stuff we use. They built their lifters. So the Russians didn't build their lifters. They would pick them and say, hey, this is the Soviet Union. You can jump high. You can do this. You do this, right? Similar to like the Cubans. But whenever he got the lifters in, he's building guys from construction workers, guys that are electricians, guys that do all different walks of life, but using those principles in building up the lifters. And so I kind of took that on like, I'm going to have all different kind of athletes. I can't recruit them.
Right.
I can recruit them kind of now, right? But the reality is, can I make somebody that probably really wasn't supposed to do this through this environment, through this vision, actually be able to do great things? And that's what I love it.
So how do you guys boil it down? So I know D, you've mentioned a few times you've had some young kids come in, they can't bench press 135 pounds, and they want to be a state champ. So how do you start trying to speak that greatness into those types of athletes who haven't seen it yet? Like, do you have a process for that, or does it just roll?
I mean, it's a lot of things. Number one, which I think is something similar to Corey touched on, like you have to lead by example. You have to show them that you're bought in, that you believe in what you're doing. You got to celebrate these small wins that these kids get. You know what I mean? So whether it's if they bench 135 for the first time and that's a huge achievement for them, in a way it is huge. So even though like there's guys in the gym that bench 315 or 4 or 5, where that 135 is a big deal to that 8th grade kid. So you got to celebrate it, right? Mm-hmm. And I think just kind of creating that environment where they all they compete, they believe in each other. It's just there's something to it. There's a synergy that happens, right? And kind of along these same lines, there's actually a story I want to tell you guys. Mm-hmm. So I was watching, Rudis did a great documentary about Walsh Jesuit High School. Now, you guys probably aren't real familiar with Walsh Jesuit, but you guys are all familiar with St. Ed's, right?
Yeah, sure.
So St. Ed's is the traditional wrestling powerhouse here in Ohio. Lance Palmer went there, tons of legendary wrestlers. Well, when I was wrestling in the mid-'90s, St. Ed's was still St. Ed's, but the number one in Ohio was Walsh Jesuit. And they were just filled with killers. And I didn't really know that much about the backstory to them. So Pasillo, who was a national champ for Ohio State, went there. Heskett, who was, an NCAA champ. All these great guys came from this Walsh Jesuit program. Well, Rudis did a documentary on their coach, Billy Barger. Mm-hmm. Now, Billy Barger was a guy from like North Akron, and he started a wrestling club like in the mid to late 80s with just him and his buddies in North Akron. It was kind of a low-income area, and he'd always wanted to be a wrestling coach. And they said he's just kind of an odd guy, kind of disheveled a little bit or whatever. And he started at this place called Thompson Park. It was just a rec center, and they had a little room where they put mats down. And from that time, now think about it, he's not even a high school coach yet. He's just some guy. He would tell anyone that listened, he said, I'm going to beat St. Ed's, and I'm going to build the best wrestling team in the country.
I love it.
All right? So that started in the late 80s. He didn't even have a team yet. But by the time all those kids that were 5 years old when he started, by the time they got to high school, now they're making noise at the youth level and everything. Walsh Jesuit ends up hiring him. So that way, because it's a private school, all those kids can transfer in. He took all those kids. They beat St. Ed's. It was like the first time St. Ed's had lost to an Ohio team in like 30 years or something ridiculous. And they won the mythical national championship. They were the best team in the country in 1995, amazing. 96, and 97.
So that class of kids just ran shit.
Correct. And it's widely considered one of the best high school wrestling teams of all time anywhere. So those were the guys who were like around when I was in. I can remember we wrestled at Medina and they were there and they were like superstars. And the thing was, they were all like kind of like kids from the streets. You know what I mean? They were like from this like North Akron area, but they were going to the Walsh Jesuit. You know what I mean? So anyway, long story short, this guy from day one had this belief that and people probably looked at him like he was crazy.
Oh,
like,
of
who
course.
are you? Like Billy Barger, you got this little room at the rec center and you're going to beat St. Ed's? and he did
Yeah.
it.
That's vision.
And
But
the other
it's-
thing, and that vision started, I guess he was in Vietnam. He got shot like in the leg or something. He was in the foxhole, and he said he had this conversation with God, and he said, if you get me out of here and I get back home, I'm going to help kids become wrestlers. Boom.
There you go. There you go.
So
Amazing.
there's the power and the importance of belief.
Yeah.
If that guy can do that,
Well, and because he
Yeah.
had ultimate belief. Like
Ultimate
he
belief.
believed it to the deepest part of his soul.
Right.
And that's where, and people can call you crazy all they want, but when somebody has belief like that and then it's backed up with actual action, that's when you can build something, really great. Scott, that's awesome. Great storytell.
Yeah, for sure. So to tie it back to the show that you and I talk about a lot, Ted Lasso, he has a quote where he says, "Believe and believe." Right. And so that's a big thing that I teach with my kids is if you believe in your beliefs and you believe in yourself, then there's nothing that you can't accomplish. Like Dustin mentioned, you have to lead by example too. So when I told the kids that next Monday we're starting 6 a.m. workouts, they're like, ugh. But then I'm posting on my story that I'm working out at 4 a.m. They don't have an excuse.
you're already done by the time they're talking about working out.
Right. So Corey always talks about like, yeah, you might not feel good today, but I'm still going to show up. And that's what I told them. I said, you know what? I don't care if none of you show up, but I'll be there. So
I fuck with that, Treadway.
so it kind of puts it on them. And I don't care if one kid shows up. That's all that matters, and that kid's going to get better that day. And believing in your own systems, like I know that if I put everything that I can, right, I'm not going to be the best motivational speaker for them. I'm not going to be the best strength coach for them. But if I believe in what I'm doing and what I can provide to them, then that's all that matters. Because I see what I want to create, and then I'm putting these systems into place. Like I'll provide them Corey's podcast. I'll provide them a book to read. I'll provide them the exercises that I've gathered and create this ecosystem for them to thrive in. And I'm giving them all the tools, and then that's what they're going to use to take and take the next step.
Just made me want to sign up to play soccer. Treadway.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got a couple more questions. So
Yeah.
just something, do you want to go on there?
No, I was just going
Yeah.
to. So is there kind of – now, obviously, as a coach, you want all those kids to all buy into what you're doing.
Sure.
But usually right off the bat, that's not going to be the case. You might have one kid. You might have two. You might just have a handful, whatever. Isn't there a part of you that kind of like, let's say you got these two kids that are always showing up. You almost then start to feel like you have something to prove to the other kids, and you can prove through them.
Yeah,
I mean, because you can take those kids under your wing, make this huge difference on them, and then it's going to be so obvious to the rest of the kids. So it may take a season or two before it happens, but it almost creates like a chip on your shoulder as a coach, right?
Exactly. And that's kind of my goal, is that these kids that don't have the skill that maybe the top 2-3 players on the team have, but if I can have one kid and he comes every single day, and then we show up next spring for open field and he dominates everybody, they're gonna be like, what was that kid doing in the off season? And then it comes back to that. So like you said, if I only have 2 kids, if I only have 3 kids, I'm gonna pour everything I have into them, and then they're gonna get a little bit better. I might not be the best coach to make them 100% better overnight, but I can make them 1% better. And then they show up next year 1% better. Kids are gonna start to take notice, and people will want to come and be a part of that.
They're your billboard, right?
Yep.
They're your poster. That's dope. That's really good. Appreciate that, Tread. Hey, so what else? Now, I wanted to go back to coaches, maybe a little advice or some suggestions. So I think we can all believe that you have to understand where you are right now, and then it's where you want to go. It's like a map, right? So your vision is kind of where you're going to go. So this is where I am today, and this is where I want to go. So I'm thinking about right now coaches who may be taking over a program or whatever, business owners that may be wanting to go in a certain direction. What advice would you give them on when they're trying to set that vision? Any thoughts there? Like,
Yep.
yeah, just take it away.
I think it's like you have to, first off, it's in here, right? So you got to be able to get it out. And it's got to be in the forefront, I think, of the people that you're attempting to coach or lead. I want all the guys to know what it took, where we're going, and what the expectation and where I see it, right? Because to Dustin's point, right, maybe early he couldn't see it all the way, but then he saw it start to happen, and then now he gets it fully, right? So I want the guys to know, like, I see greatness in them. Mm-hmm. I know where it can go, and that I've already been in some of these spots before. Mm-hmm. So, like, to me, if it happens or when it happens, like, I'm not going to be that surprised. Once again, I didn't get here by accident, dude. Mm-hmm. Like, I might have had some luck along the way, but I forced it here. Mm-hmm. And so from the consistency from all this, so to me, it's like I know that I have an ability that is probably different than most.
Mm-hmm.
And so I need to make sure that I keep that in the forefront so they continue to believe, because then when the buy-in is full go with your killers in the room, with the dudes that are trying to come up, with the dudes that are struggling, like when the whole buy-in's there, because everyone's like, I'm seeing really what G's trying to do here.
Mm-hmm.
And so like if I had a kind of an issue the other day and I was like, look, man, I will explain to you why I don't want certain people here. I'll explain to you how much money it took to get here. I'll explain to you why I sound half fucking crazy when I talk about this. And I'll explain to you where I know it's going to go. And so then if you have questions after that of why I'm operating this way, then we can talk about it. But I need you to understand why when you want somebody to come here, you have to ask me. Because that there's a certain like this there's got to be like standard. I saw how other things like faltered over time, and I'm not falling into that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to make people know like there's reasons why this is the way it is, and whether you agree with it or not, but I can make you understand why I feel this way. And then maybe you don't think like I'm like tripping on some stuff, and maybe you still do. And then I even said, and then if we have to have that conversation, then that's maybe like something else, you know? So I think like laying it out there often enough so people can like maybe get on board or not get on board is really important. And then as they see the execution, you only have to ride with me one time and see it work. Then why would you ever not believe me? If I tell you we're going to build this to 7 figures, I've already done it before. So if I really believe it and then it happens, when I come back to you again, how are you going to ever dispute it? You're going to say, well, shit, G, it worked the first time. You know, so I think it's like, I want to show you what I'm going to do. I want you to experience what we're going to do and build. And then how, like, it's almost like I wore down my wife. At first, she didn't know. I'm just going to tell you this story. I wore her down because she was like, you're just talking all this crazy stuff about business. But then it kept happening. And then it kept happening. And then it kept happening. So then it's like,
Why would she even question it now?
thank you.
Ray, you're in 100%.
Yeah. And then even if it doesn't work, most of the time it's still, you know what I mean? So it's like, I think it's the same kind of thing. And when the way I look at it, like if you're coaching and you're leading and you just keep excelling, it doesn't happen in the time frame. You're not entitled to a time frame. You got to put the action behind it. But the reality is, if you can keep making it happen, why can't those kids, they'll have to get on board.
You're not entitled to a time
You're not entitled to a time frame.
That's right.
I want this thing to be 10 million already, but it's not.
Yeah.
But it'll be 10 million. I'll call you on that day.
Yeah, I believe it. hey, I'm a believer. Hey, you said one more thing. I want to just get your take on this. You mentioned people getting off the ship. You
Yeah.
said, you know, so do you get worried about that? So, or is that part of this process where if you're speaking greatness like this, is it not for everybody? And how do you handle somebody who doesn't get on board?
Here's the one thing that I dislike when happens. If somebody gets off the ship because of maybe they can't all the way believe it or buy in or aren't willing to do the actions, but they got the talent too. That bugs me, right? And I think that could be with the sport, business, whatever. But like I also understood a long time ago that I had certain abilities maybe other people didn't. So they're not going to all the way see it. But it's like if I can keep it in the forefront so they can believe it enough to get them there so they can have the success and they can build the momentum so they can believe even more. And if the whole group raises up like that, then I think what can be achieved, which is like the Patriot way, the Marietta, I want to create a system of like what we do, we are winners.
Right.
And that's just what it is. When we go to the meets, we should be number one on each weight class of the podium. We're more intense on Wednesdays than we are at the meet. Like it's just a fact. Like it's harder to get down here than it is to go out there. And so it's like, it's that environment of success and expectation that I just think that if I keep it out here, then it's not like people. I don't want people to forget about it.
I love it.
So,
how about you guys? As far as any advice, coaches that are trying to set this vision and what direction they should go?
Yeah, so I think something important to do, like, all right, so if you're a young coach coming into a program, then you need to assess what has happened before you, maybe the state of the program. And it's easy to come in and just say, all right, we're going to be winners, we're going to be champions, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. But you also have to look at it and say, okay, how come it hasn't happened up to this point before I was here? You know, and then if you can identify like, all right, here's the things that need to change about the culture. Here's the things that I need to change about the way practice operates, or here's the things that I need to implement to maybe change the way they used to think and the way that we thought of ourselves as an organization, and then you got to start to implement some of those, because you can't just start with this, you know, baseline of like, hey, we're going to be the best powerlifting team in the world. That's not what you started with.
Yeah.
You know, you came in and you're changing these guys' behaviors, you're making them get up earlier, all these other things. So as a coach, I think you got to do that too. You have to kind of assess the state of the program and not be afraid to say, all right, here's what we need to change about it. It's comfortable to do things the way they've always been done, and then just try to put some icing on top of the cake. But you can't do that. You got to change the things that were fundamentally wrong first.
Love it.
Perfect.
Yeah, so the cliche answer that everyone says is find a mentor, right? So if you want to be the best coach, they'll say, oh, go find a mentor, somebody you can look up to and bounce ideas off of and follow in their footsteps. But to take that a step further, the thing that I did that I think has helped me the most in my coaching career is find a group of people that are going to push me. So Corey's my mentor, right? Corey's taught me so many things that he doesn't even know that he taught me. But one of the things that he taught me was to be elite at connecting with other people and building relationships and building like a tribe. And so when I hear find a mentor, the thing that I would say is find like a group of 5 to 10 people that you consider elite at what they do, or
Like that.
have a characteristic that you want to take back. So like Corey might be my mentor, but I look up to you. I look up to somebody younger than me, Zach Matheny. Like, all these people are in my circle, so that way when I'm having a bad day, I'm like, man, I don't want to be up at 4 a.m. to work out. Zach's like, well, you're a pussy and you should be there. It's like, but you always have, because it's easy to find a mentor like Corey. And then I'll text a friend from back home and be like, yeah, man, I'm not really feeling it. And he's like, oh, just take a day off. And it's like, but when you have.
You ain't getting that answer from me.
No, but I know not to ask Corey. But then when I go ask Zach and say, yo, I don't feel like getting up, he'd be like, why not? If I go talk to Coach Deacon and say, man, I don't want to show up to practice today. I don't want to do this. He'd be like, well, you should, and this is why. And when you keep elite company and your 5 to 10 people that you hold close to you in your circle are all high-level, high-operating individuals, you have no choice but to succeed.
I love that, and you know, going off of what both of you said. I mean, I think you know, D, you sparked something for me. I always tell people, I think every average program, everyone talks. There's nobody that's signing up right now saying we're going to lose every game this year.
Yeah.
You know, or you know,
Yeah.
we're going to try to like win one or what. People don't do that. So everyone talks sometimes a big game, but what you have done and what we all have done is we try to back it up with our actions. And what made me think with you here, this is kind of a model that I think about. It's a lot of reflection. A lot of times when you start thinking about where you want to go with something, so you do it by having mentors, right? It could be through reading, it could be doing a lot of things. But you have to have some kind of reflection that's going to create some awareness of where you want to go. Because like I said, I think it's really common to say that I want to be great. It's really, really common. But then can you find your little niche through your values, and then can that niche be so compelling that you attract other elite achievers around you? To me, that's one of the keys to this thing. It's not just being like everybody else and saying I want to win or I want to make money or I want to have a great life. It's being willing to do all those little things to make that happen.
Yeah, I think when I hear you say that stuff, Coach, it was like.
That's a nerdy's talk, by the way.
Yeah. No, what kind of came to mind to me was I used to like have all these thoughts of craziness before anybody was believing it, right? But then I also, for some reason, since I would like kind of got a clue, let's say I was like 14, 15 years old, I started telling myself I was meant to be great and do great things, that my situation wasn't really what was outlined for me. It never felt natural.
Yeah.
It never felt good being broke. It never felt good not being strong or being elite. Like none of that shit felt natural to me. And I don't know where it came from. Mm-hmm. That's the funny thing, right? And maybe it was part of like just wanting to be out of my situation so much. And so when I started finding like mild success in the weight room, and then, you know, when we got the first gym going when I was like 20, to me, I was like already winning. Mm-hmm. So I was like, you know, I'm out here doing something I love to do, leading other people, coaching people that want to get better. And it was all like so positive that then I was like, man, I'm 20 years old and I'm doing what I love and I can still make my bill payments. Like it just gave me a clue that what is really possible with this life. And so then I started believing all kinds of wild shit. And I think that you have to, you can say all the stuff you want to say, but the reality is like, I really believe it. And like so like when people talk about whys and people talk about real vision, like you can hear it and it sounds like it can't be fake. It has to be what you're willing to do everything to build the program. One kid's going to be there and you'll show up the whole year for one kid. Like there has to be things that you're going to be willing to do that it's going to be really super shitty for like a long time probably to build anything great. And I just think that once I had that much success, that's all I needed, because then I knew every step of the way I was going to be willing to do exactly what it took. I know right now what it's going to take for me to go to the next level, from business, physique, money, whatever it is, right? Whatever my goals are. I know what it's going to take. And it took not being able to walk when I was hurt, I went and lunged 800 meters before I got here at 4 a.m., like to open up just so I could get here to do content. Like I know it's going to take some real digging, right? Because there's levels to all this stuff, bro. There's levels to all of it. And it's like when you can start to really like dig deep like that and understand and then rely on yourself to actually go through with it, then that stuff will open up for you. But when that shit is fake and it's just, you're just saying it because people want to hear it, and you're not really willing to do gassers with your guys outside and push them to do like the stuff I see Dustin do with these wrestling guys, like you got to be willing to go there and go there for a while. And if you want to go there for a while, then the stuff will open up to where, oh, hallelujah, and the stuff that you're trying to build. But that shit is hard. And I'm not trying to make it sound easy, because it's not. That's why when people want to go from 0 to 1, but we're working at like 80, right? Because we've been doing this for 20 years. So when you hear this is an evolution of craziness, but because I believed every step of the way. So I just don't want people to think it goes from, like Dustin said, these guys, it was me and 2 other guys, me and Todd Dunkel, Coach Dunkel, shout out, and one other dude in the morning at 7. That's how it started. Now it's
the
evolved.
7 a.m. crew.
Yeah, now it's evolved because of that's the only time we had available because we got busier. So it's like stuff takes time, but the entry point and the belief has to be so deep that no one can really mess with it.
You guys, we all know G threw away. I mean, I almost think that your superpower, it could be a lot of different things, but I do think it's that belief. I mean, you have a way of speaking, a way of seeing things that I mean, I know I signed up for, and I think a lot of us have, right? It's like, and I think that belief is so strong, but that belief it's earned belief.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's earned through reps.
Yeah, it's earned through reps, and it's earned from the willingness to do whatever you have to do to make some things come through.
I knew that about myself, that others weren't willing to do it. And I just kept showing up and doing it. And so like, it's not because of some crazy, like great, like athletic ability or any type of like wild stuff. It's just really that like base level consistency that if me and you sign up to do something, I'll go for it as long as it takes. But are you willing to do? Not you, but metaphorically you, right? And I think that I've continued to like just outlast motherfuckers. It's that bring a lunchbox mentality. And so here's the other thing is, I like to look in motherfuckers' eyes to see if they believe me, because I'll give them that awkward silence, and then I can tell. Do you really believe what I'm saying? Are you really on board for it? And that to me is like, that gets me excited.
I have a cousin who's a great shooter. He can really shoot, can really play. He was the Worthington MVP a couple years back.
Yeah.
But anyways, I always ask, can so-and-so outshoot you? And he goes, you better not miss. You better not miss anything. Like
basketball will give you some swag too.
So if we're gonna shoot, you better not miss. If he misses, it's over. Like, I got it. Right?
I'm telling you, I still get up thinking people want my spot.
Yeah.
And I'm not willing to give it up yet.
And that's the hunger, right? That's the hunger. Hey, so we're getting up against time a little bit. But I want to ask one more question. Put you guys on the spot. I'm gonna start with you, Coach Tread. So speaking of on this line of vision, so we talked. We kind of talked about our evolution to where we are now. But I'm interested to hear what's the vision for you moving forward. When you run your team, just give me your vision as we move forward. I'd like to hear from everybody on that.
Yeah, so in life, my vision is, like I mentioned earlier, I want to be elite at building relationships. Like, I'm never going to be the strongest weightlifter. I'm never going to be the best coach. I'm never going to be, the best, soccer player ever, whatever it may be. But I want to be elite at building relationships with those people who are, so that I can pass on their information to others. And my vision for where I want to take my team is to kind of instill that belief, right? Because a lot of these kids, they don't have that Corey in their life. So if I can be that person who's going to teach them discipline, who's going to teach them that as long as they believe in themselves and put the things around them to make them be great, they'll achieve it. So I really just want to be that person that Corey was for me, and that, you know, you were for me, and Dustin was for me, and that somebody that can kind of just pass along things to other people and help them grow and be great.
Perfect. D, what gets you fired up over the next 5, 10, 20 years?
Yeah, so when I think about my career as a strength coach, you know, and the way where I see it going, where I know it's going to go, and it's already on its way there, is I see myself not just being, you know, a well-known strength coach for wrestlers, but considered the top expert in the world. You know, kind of like how people think of Louis Simmons. When they think of powerlifting, they automatically think of Louis Simmons. Right now, when people think of wrestling strength training, someone might think of me, someone might just associate me with the Buckeyes. 5 years from now, anytime anyone talks about strength training and wrestling, they're going to think of me. And so not just the top athletes in the world, but the top coaches in the world, when they want to learn, they're going to come to me. They're going to come here to our facility to learn. So that's really where I see that going. And then I also, you know, kind of with Max Separate Muscle, I see, you know, not even 5 years from now, I think that we'll probably be sitting here doing interviews with people that want to learn how we built this into a behemoth. You know what I mean? Behemoth, is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, that's good.
You know what I mean? So like that'll be what we'll be doing 5 years from now. I don't even know if by that point how much we will actually be running it, because it might have just kind of ballooned into something where it's more of like, how did you guys do this? Teach people how to do what you guys did, and, you know, how did you have so much fun doing it? That's what I see.
Hey, just if I could push on the first part one more time. So how are you going to be that person in the next 5 years? Like
just keep doing the same thing I did today. You know what I mean? No,
nothing special.
Yeah, I don't got to do anything different.
Nope.
Just keep, you know, capturing what I do, and be consistent about it, and keep putting it out there for people to learn from me. And that's, I don't need to like reinvent anything. It's just keep doing. I look at what I did 5 years from now, or 5 years ago, and it's led to right here, and it's just going to keep progressing the same way.
Do you have a differentiator? Do you have something? Is it the secret sauce of being willing to sweat with them? Do you have?
I think that's part of it. Mm-hmm. You know, just like G always talks about, like he's willing to do what other people aren't willing to do, and I think that's part of my strength. You know, with training these guys, I'm willing to. You know, I'm 42 years old. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm in here training with, you know, me and Colin. We're doing the same workout today. Colin's in his prime. Yeah, I mean, he was the
Colin's a beast.
Prime.
Yeah, he was the
prime. Yeah.
Yeah, he was the runner-up at the Olympic trials. You know what I mean? So like, and that's just one workout or whatever. But yeah, so consistently, I'm willing to do what other coaches are probably not willing to do. I think my ability to connect with the athletes on a personal level, and like the way I can help them understand why we're doing things the way we're doing, as opposed to just trying to big word them to death or whatever. Right. I think that kind of sets me apart. You know, maybe it's the swag. I don't know.
No, I think it never hurts, bro.
I got a little chills here. I
think the clear cut, D. That's what we always talk about, right? That when your name comes up, it's clear cut. Like they just say, no, that's the guy.
Yeah.
And that's why I've told them forever, like, bro, there's no number 2.
Yeah.
It's him.
Yeah, you believed it before I did. So
yeah, I've been telling them this shit, like, bro, this is it. Like, when they go strength training for wrestling, it's you. The sun is rising and setting on what Coach Myers is doing. To me, that's what I've seen out here, and he's continuing to just rock it like that. So I think that maybe that conversation is already there, D, but you can send it to another planet where it's just a clear cut.
Yeah, I want it to be hands down. You know what I mean? I think it's already, you know, not to like pat myself on the back, but it's already kind of in that realm. Mm-hmm. But I want it to be like universal. You know what I mean? Where it's like there's no, you know, you're not going to be able to find anyone that, like, if someone brings up powerlifting and they bring up Louis Simmons, you're not going to be able to find anyone that says, well, you know, Louis wasn't influential, or no one would be able to say, whether they like Louis or not.
Yeah, facts.
You know, I mean, no one's going to be able to say that. So I think it's kind of, that's maybe where I see the next thing go, where it's that synonymous that it's just like, even if you're an Iowa guy or a Penn State guy, you might not like me, you got to respect it, you know?
Louis did such a good job of just like showing a pathway to that type of level, because he did it himself in person. He competed like 5 different decades or something wild. He's in his 70s now, and he like did it as an athlete and then as a content producer. And so he really, that's why I looked up to him so much too as a coach. He like just showcased that I do it my own way with an unapologetic nature, built up some, you know, great, you know, examples of his style of training. And I don't agree with all the stuff, but I agree with the way that they built it. Right. And so it's like that style of when people talk strength, if his name doesn't come up, like, you don't even know what the hell you're talking about. And so that's one thing, like, I loved, you know, working with Arnold and learning from him, but I ain't trying to be the Terminator. But when I see what Louis built, like, same as D, like want to have a version of that when my career, like the body of my career has, and I think a lot of mine will be business related too. I hope to be, but it's like the reality is I want that just like body of work to be at a point where it's like, okay, it was like on all sides. It was athletic, it was in programming, it was in promotion, it was like I've been like on all sides of the business. And so I wanted to really have like a body of work that I was proud of, to where I could be in a light that's like pretty high up there when I'm done. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I don't really have in our world, like a 5-year plan don't exist, because if you just ask us what we did in the last year, it's what most motherfuckers probably do in 10 years. So it's like just a fact. So I think that I can only really think like quarter to quarter or maybe year to year, but I see like, you know, kind of like the long term of kind of like I hope that how I'm viewed essentially, and I'm working towards that. But the reality is the impact through things like this, from the programming to the supplements to the mentality to the podcast, like it's a different type of impact that I've been trying to create. And I really kind of understood that over like 10 years, that when I started pouring into in a different level, not just in fitness, but just like a mentality of how to operate, I started getting a different feedback back on life, right? And so I always say people are coming to me probably to get abs or whatever, or to get stronger. But the reality is I'm trying to teach them covertly on a whole way to operate to where they can hopefully have success in life. And so I really want to be known for that. I think I got here through the fitness way, but the reality is like the stuff that I get feedback online is quite different than that. Probably the same as any of you guys get from your athletes that you coach. It's the same thing.
So for you, are you trying to just scale that now? Like it started off as like a one-on-one training,
for sure,
right? And now it's just how many people you can impact. Does that fire you up?
Super fires me up, because I think that if I think about when I'm getting on the microphone to create content, I'm really trying to teach generations. Originally, I was trying to teach my own kids and their kids. And I wanted to have as much stuff out here that they could get from Granddaddy G out here making it happen. But the reality is it spilled over into the world. And now when you get that world feedback, you start to realize, okay, I went through these like crazy things in my life to actually help way more people than I even realized. And that's like a responsibility and a little bit of a gift, right? And so that's why I'm so bullish on doing all this stuff, because I know the kind of stuff that it's not just Treadway in the gym anymore, right? Like I had that impact because he came here. But now with all these resources, like, and the stuff that we all know, we have a responsibility to share it, I think.
No doubt.
And so I'm hoping that my body of work, once it's all said and done, is strong like that.
That's awesome. Anything you guys want to add or ask me? Or
about you, Coach?
For me?
Yeah, let's talk. When you're talking about the program, visualizing, and like, how do you get the guys to buy in? Where do you think it's going, or where are you forcing it to go?
Well, I mean, I think I'd like to think of myself. I have different buckets. Like I have the team that I coach at Denison, the young men that are there, and then I have all the stuff that I do on the side as well. From the team standpoint, I mean, I think kind of, to go off what Dee was saying, I think just more of the same. And look, we're always trying new things, but I think we have a good baseline established. So now it's just, can we teach them how to move and operate even better? And I think for us, we get kids that are really smart. A lot of them are from really great families. But if we can teach them how to throw down a little bit, right? Like a little grit, little perseverance, like to me that sometimes is the hole in the guys that we get. They lack a little bit of that edge, and I think through sports you can do that. So that's one bucket. The other bucket, I really feel like I'm as a coach, and I don't mean to sound high and mighty, but people have heard me say this before, but I think sports is one of the last few no bullshit zones out there. Where race, color of skin, socioeconomic status, what you look like, none of it matters when the ball goes in the air or whenever you're standing mano a mano with someone on the mat. None of that matters. It's one of the last few spaces where none of that matters. And as a coach, I feel like I'm a steward to that. So there's a lot of pressure now, right? There's a lot of parental pressure. There's all kinds of outside influences, but I want to make sure that sports stay that way. So I feel like I'm a gatekeeper to that environment. And then lastly, I just have some other causes that I want to try to keep seeing. I mean, in baseball right now, there's just not a whole lot of exposure. Baseball is becoming an upper middle class sport, and I want to make sure that we try to move a little bit differently there too, the way we recruit, and try to get our eyes on some people from different backgrounds. Like the last thing I want is for baseball to be, Yeah, it's because of the training, because there's so much money on the training side of things now that we've priced ourselves out for a lot of kids. So anyways, I just want to make sure we keep
a kid
providing
like
that as
Matt,
well.
right? I mean, you got Matt from a lower income area that comes out of a school that doesn't even really play baseball. I mean, they have baseball, but they're not known for it.
And
And look,
keep that. You want to keep that. You know, you want to keep baseball. I mean, baseball obviously has a big, a Latin American flavor, but in the States, you know, you're not seeing as many kids of color playing baseball anymore. So anyways, there's some things like that I want to do on the side as well. But all those things fire me up, you know, and it's just kind of like you. I think I'm trying to be a force multiplier. I feel very lucky and blessed to be around. I've been around great people all my life, and people from a lot of people where I came from didn't have that access. So I just want to be able to spread some of the messages that I've got to learn.
Yeah.
So I almost feel like it's an obligation, right? Like
it is.
When you get to meet people like you guys and people that I've been able to encounter over the years, you want to just make sure that everybody has access to the information. So I think that's what fires me up. It's like I write to get stuff off my chest, but I'm hoping someone picks it up that you know, wouldn't have access to a free newsletter, and they go, you know, it makes me think a little bit differently. So
love it.
That's where I'm heading.
That's cool. Guys, want to wrap it up there? You guys good? Yeah, solid. Coaching staff. I'm your boy Corey G, Coach Mike Deegan, Coach Tyler Treadway, Coach Dustin Myers. Brought to you by MaxEverMuscle.com. We are out.